Shabbat
Shabbat
Shalom.
Shalom.
Everyone. Good to see you.
Move it over so you can see.
It's okay.
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom, Cantor.
Shabbat Shalom. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. You were great yesterday. The whole program was wonderful.
Oh, it was wonderful. It was great.
I thought it was cute.
Yeah.
I thought it was cute when he called you the COVID canner.
Patty, this is what it looks like. Can you see?
Doesn't stick.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. I looked it up. But what do? It's like a doodle. Like I don't understand.
It's not a
Robin has one. Robin, hold it up. Robin has it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm capable of doing something.
Oh, listen,
like
if I can, you can.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even draw a stick figure.
You don't have to. She
don't-
said you don't. It's just
She walks you through it.
Oh, okay.
And it's very, very simple. There, she specifically goes over step by step the different patterns. You'll love it.
Wonderful. And if I'm doing it here at home, if I'm messing up, nobody will see it.
right. And
Joe, we can't hear you. Joe, you're on mute.
Yeah, Joe, you're muted.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
So good.
And
Everybody was so good last
Everything was
night.
great.
Yeah, it was great. I'll be
and
back.
Marlene, we're opening it up to men and teens.
You
Oh, that's
mean
a
the
great idea.
Zen tangle thing?
Mm-hmm.
Put together.
Well, I'll see who else wants to
Now
do it.
you have two screens.
What do you mean?
Are
I
you
turned
off?
off my phone. Wait, I turned off my
You should be.
No, you didn't.
Okay,
There you
Shabbat
are.
everyone. We're going to be beginning the service. Wishing you all Shabbat Shalom. It's great to see all of you. I hope you had. I hope you had a great week. And we're going to be beginning with the beautiful Kabbalistic poem of the 16th century Kabbalists of Sfat, Shalom Aleichem. Please join me on page 13 of Sim Shalom. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Yasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedechem Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Shabbat Shalom to everyone else who has joined. We're going to be continuing on page 16. But before we do, Patty first is going to read for us a poem about Shirul Adonai.
To take the first step to sing a new song is to close one's eyes and dive into unknown waters. For a moment knowing nothing, risking all, but then to discover the waters are friendly, the ground is firm, and the song rises again. Out of my mouth comes words, lifting the wind, and I hear the first song that has been in my heart, silent, unknown, the longing of our hearts.
Thank you so much, Patty. We're going to continue on page 16 with Shir Adonai, Shir Chadash. Please join me. We'll now be continuing on the next page, on page 17, with Or Zarua. This is Psalm 97. Light is stored for the righteous, and there will be joy for the honorable. Let us rejoice in Adonai, in our God, and in the holiness of God's name. We're now going to continue on page 19 with Psalm 99, with Romemu on the bottom of the page. And these words are about us exalting the Creator and exalting God's great power. Please join me in Craig Taubman's Romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachkavu behar kodsho. Romemu Eloheinu v'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho. We're now going to continue on page 20 with Psalm 29. This psalm is a very interesting psalm. It has very powerful and beautiful natural metaphors. And the metaphors of this poem encourage us and tell us to worship God, to acclaim God, but specifically it compares the voice of God and God's power to the thunder of rushing waters, to that of the skipping of a calf. It also says that God is so powerful that God could split the cedars of Lebanon, which are at one point considered the strongest type of wood in the world. He could split it like this in a split second. So please join me in this psalm, this great psalm about the natural wonder of God. Before we continue with Lecha Dodi on page 21, let's just take a moment to close our eyes and just imagine for a second that you're in the mountains, you're in Sfat, you're surrounded by this natural beauty, you're surrounded by the beautiful stones of the city, and you're looking out into the mountains, and the sun is setting. The sun is getting very close to setting. There's a golden hue coming from the sun from above the mountains. And you're sitting together with your family, with your friends, with your loved ones, and you're about to welcome the Shabbat as you feel this breeze upon your face from the mountains. So please join me for Lecha Dodi as we sing this beautiful poem about welcoming Shabbat, the bride of the people of Israel. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Before we continue to our next prayer, now that we have welcomed Shabbat, I just want to do a small little Devar Tefillah. So the prayer we have coming up next on page 23 is a psalm. It's a psalm that's actually Psalm 92, and this psalm is dedicated to Shabbat. You can see at the top of the page of 23 it says Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat, and Mizmor Shir it implies a certain genre of song that's specifically made for Shabbat, because the Psalms, which are some of our oldest and most ancient prayers, they go back about 2,500 to 3,000 years, and they were used as kind of the lyrics to the songs of the music of the great temple, specifically the second temple of Jerusalem. And in fact, the second temple had an orchestra of 12 musicians, it had a choir, and all of their services were filled with great music, with really beautiful music. And much of their music was used to sing the psalms. In fact, the word psalm in English comes from the Greek word samoi, which means to be accompanied by instruments, or it could also mean lyrics to music. That's where the word psalm comes from. And in Hebrew, the word for psalms is tehillim, which means praises. And that's because a lot of our tehillim, our psalms, are poems of praise of God. And so this psalm, Psalm 92 on page 23, is a psalm that was specifically sung by the high priests in the temple on Shabbat. And if you look at the language of the poem, it's very interesting. And it captures the theology that we have from the Torah and from the Psalms and from the prophets also about Shabbat. Shabbat is meant to be seen as the perfect day. It's the day when all the world is in peace. The world is not in disrepair, but it's in repair. And if you go according to the Kabbalistic principles, all the parts of God are together. So according to the Kabbalists who wrote the first part of the service, which we've been singing, Kabbalat Shabbat, God has 10 parts. And during every single weekday, these parts are in disrepair. They're not connected. But on Shabbat, they come together and they become a whole. And so on Shabbat, which is the day of peace, the day of eternity, and the day when we're supposed to feel like we have returned to Gan Eden, to the Garden of Eden, the psalm describes this day. And what the psalm describes is that one day, or on Shabbat, the righteous shall flourish like a palm tree. Those are the words tzaddik katamar yifrach, which you might recognize from the melody. Tzaddik katamar, and so on. So that says the righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. So they should grow as easily as the palm tree does in the land of Israel. And it also says that the enemies of Adonai, or basically, it's kind of saying the bad people of the world, they will disappear. And only in the world there will only remain good people, righteous people. It also talks about how we're going to worship God. And it says that we worship God with the music of a lute, the melody of a harp. You can see in the third line in Hebrew, it says, Va'alei nevel, alei higayon, bechinor. These are all different kinds of instruments, lute, harp, and so on. And so this psalm is describing a kind of beautiful utopia, which is supposed to be Shabbat. And it describes that we have to praise God with the psalm through music and through song. So let us do exactly that. On page 23, please join me for Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני. וזמר לשמך עליון, וזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר במתך בלילות, צדיק כתמר יפרח, כרז בלבנון ישגה, שתולים בבית אדוני, בקצרות אלוהינו יפיקו. הודיענו לבשיבה, דשנים דרעננים יהיו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי ולא עוולת אבא. We're now going to continue with the Mourner's Kaddish on page 24. Those of you who are in mourning or observing a yard site, please rise as you are able, and we'll recite the words of the Kaddish all together. Yit kadal v'yit kadash shemei rabah, bi'alma divera kirutei v'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon ufchayei dochol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabah mivorach olam
Maya.
yitbarach v'yitadar
Brichu.
le'elam
Amen.
Yehei
Shlama Shemaya. Israel Vimru. Amen.
Oseh shalom
Who Yaseh Shalom. Len Yahoy Israel. Amen.
Amen.
May the memory of the departed forever be a blessing, and may they forever live on in all of our hearts. Before we continue to Ma'ariv, I just want to ask everyone for just a short statement of what was one blessing that you had in this past week. So I'll go first. For me, the blessing of this past week was that I had this concert yesterday, and it went well, and it was a pleasure to sing with my colleagues. And so that for me was a blessing. Bob, I see you have your hand up.
My blessing is the tefillah class you gave the other day, Ken. It was awesome. It's great. I look forward to it every week.
Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you. I'm so glad you're enjoying it. Go ahead, Bill.
Yes, Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Shabbat
And
Shalom.
one of the blessings, to keep it short, was being able to listen to all the cantors, and Yasher Koch to you for your leadership in that kahila.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you. Go ahead, Larry, and then Judy.
So our biggest blessing was we were finally able to buy tickets to go to Israel in November to see my grandchildren.
Wow.
And it was a bargain.
Awesome. That's amazing. When was the last time you were in Israel?
December a year ago. We usually go once or twice a year, but we haven't been able to.
Wow. Yeah, of course. Well, that's great. That's really great. Judy, you're next.
Yeah, that's wonderful news. I can't top that. So happy for both of you. And I just echo Bill. Thank you, Cantor, for providing us with such a beautiful night last night in celebration of Yom Ha'atzmaut. And you did a great job. I liked your explanations on the songs as well. So brought back memories from 1973 and also from 67. So thank you for organizing.
My pleasure. Thank you. Does anyone else have any blessings that they want to say? Oh, okay. So may our coming week bring us more blessings to all of us and our families. And we're now going to continue with the Ma'ariv service. Ma'ariv service begins on page 28. Please rise as you are able for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai Havorach. Havorach Leolam
What's
Vaed.
going on? I just zoomed into Andy Marrow's
Okay, we're going to continue on the bottom of page 28. Baruch atah Adonai me'olam. Uma'avir yom u'mevil laila. Uma'vadil ben yom u'vein laila. Adonai tzvaot shemo. Elchai v'kayam. Tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai. Hamari varavim. Please join me on page 29, Ahavat Olam, a prayer and poem about God's constant and consistent love for the people of Israel, and a poem of thanks to God for giving us the Torah. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Afta, Amcha Afta. Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, אותנו למדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ומצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ויורך ימינו יומם ולילה ואהבתך לתסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל אוהב עמו ישראל. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'yahavta et Adonai Elohecha בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אלוהים מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. We continue silently. והיה אם שמוע תשמעו על מצוותי אשר צוותכם היום. ושמתם את דברי האלה בפיכם נפשכם וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען ירבו אדוני לאבותיכם לתת להם כימי השמיים על הארץ. page 31. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל, ואמרת עליהם, ויעשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת, והיה לכם לציצית, וריתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם, ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריכם, למען תזכרו, ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם. We're going to now continue on page 32 in the middle. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ובני ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם ונאמר כנען יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גל ישראל. We'll now continue on page 33 with the prayer Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu, we ask God to let us go into the evening to sleep in peace, covered in a sukkah shlomecha, in a canopy of peace. We ask God to save us from all of our enemies, from pestilence, from starvation, and from sorrow. And we ask God to remove all evil that surrounds us. And we ask God to let us go to sleep in peace, knowing that we will wake up also calmly in peace. This is going to be a melody that I wrote. I sang it a few times, so if you remember it, please join me. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ברוך אתה Pray that God covers us in a shelter of peace. We're now going to turn to page 34 to recite the words of Vishamru. This is a quote from the Torah which talks about God giving us Shabbat as a day of rest and as a day which we should always remember and keep as a day of rest. Before we continue to the Amidah, we're going to rise on the bottom of page 34 as we're able for the Chatzi Kaddish. יתקדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעלמא דברי קירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל בגדה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן יש מרבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמי המאיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ותרמה ותעשה ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבקתה ונקמתה דמירן ביעלמה ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו amen. La 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 May God bless all of us and the whole world with peace. We're now going to turn to page 48 for the Kaddish Shalem. Please rise as you are able. Page 48. יתקדש ויתקדש שמי רבה בעלמא דברה קירותי ולך מלכותי בחייכון ומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יש רבה מבורך לעולם ולעד מעמיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ותרמה ותנשא ויתהדר ותהדר השם בעיני קודשה בריחולל מקום וכתב ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירם בעלמה וימרו אמן תתקבע ותכל נבע ותכל דכל ישראל קדם אבוהון וישמעיה וימרו אמן יש להם רבה משמעיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו Amen. Let's now turn the page for Kiddush. If you have your Kiddush cup, please join me. And just a little fun fact, the reason why we do Kiddush with wine, does anyone know why we do Kiddush with wine? So I'll tell you why we do Kiddush with wine. There's actually no requirement from Torah to do it with wine. The reason why we do it specifically with wine is because the rabbis of the Talmud, when they were creating these early Jewish services, decided that in order to observe the mitzvah of keeping and remembering Shabbat, we should sanctify the Shabbat. So say a sanctification blessing of it. And they decided that what better way to do it than to do it with wine. Wine being a symbol of joy, of happiness and fun, and also wine being something that hopefully most of us aren't doing while we're working. Most of us don't drink on during the day, during work. We drink when we're relaxing. We drink when we're able to relax and have no responsibilities. Hopefully. So in this way, we by drinking wine right as we're starting Shabbat, we're acknowledging that now we are entering a time of rest, a time of no responsibilities, no work, and a time when we can just relax and enjoy the wine. So please join me, page 49 in Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pari hagafen ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשה מצוותיו ורצה בשבת קודשו באהבה וברצון, הנחילנו זיכרונו למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. לחיים. We continue on page 51 with Aleinu. Please rise as you are able. Page 51. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא תשמע יסר עצמו שמקרא מקרשויות, ככתוב בתורתו, ידעת היום. על כן נקבל לכאן עלינו לראות מהרה. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. For those, we turn to page 52. For those of us who are in mourning or observing a yard site, you can remain standing. And I'm just going to unmute everyone so you can say whom you are observing a yard site for or mourning.
You want to say who?
Go ahead, Larry.
For my mother, Selma Cutler.
For my mother, Faye Kessler.
My mother, Ginger Block.
My mother, Lois Bachman.
My mother's first yard site, Livy Yaffe, Livy Bat Chavachaya.
Let's recite the words of the Kaddish together. Yitkadal Yalma Barach
Yishabach, Yitba'ar, Yitramam, Yitnaseh, Yitadar, Yitalev, Yitalav, Shmei, Le'elo, Mikol, V'yakata, V'rata, Tushbachata, V'nechmata, Amirandi, Amen.
Amen.
Yehi, Shlomo Rabba, Mishmaya. Chaim Aleinu v'Kol Yisrael v'Amen.
Amen.
Oseh
Shalom b'Mama. B'Yah Shalom. Aleinu v'Kol Yisrael. Amen.
Amen.
May their memories remain a blessing, and may their souls forever remain in peace with God.
Amen.
Amen.
Before we conclude our service, we just have some announcements. And before some announcements, I just want to add to what I said about Kiddush, and that it's interesting that I have one of the few jobs where I'm required to drink on the job. So some announcements for this week and for tomorrow. Tomorrow, as many of you may have heard, is Rabbi Mero's last Shabbat, and it's her tribute Shabbat. So please join us. There's going to be a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts. That should be very interesting. And at 8 p.m. tomorrow will be Rabbi Mero's Havdalah and Beit Cafe tribute. That will be at 8 p.m. tomorrow. Other than that, we have a week full of a lot of interesting things. Classes by Rabbi GK and me. One of the classes that I've been teaching is Intro to Tefillah, and that's on Wednesdays, and this week it's at 7:30, and it's a class where we're learning and looking at all the structures, meaning, and history of our prayers and of our tradition. There will also be at 7:30 on Thursday a lecture with Chazan Tillman from Jewish Theological Seminary about the music of Leonard Bernstein. That's on Thursday at 7:30. Next Friday on Shabbat, I'm doing a meditative Shabbat service, which I've done a few times. So if you like to meditate and relax on Shabbat, please join us then. Other than that, all the other things are in the email, so you can look out for them. And does anyone else have anything they want to add to the announcements?
Just, I'm sure everybody got this, but I don't know if it's the Kehila or the whole Federation is doing a musical program on Sunday afternoon for Israel 73.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, thank you, Judy. Let me just check.
I don't know. I think it's the whole Federation. I don't think it's just the Kehila.
Yes, yeah, you're right. That's going to be on Sunday. So just look out for that as well.
I think it's at 4:00, and it's David Broza, and I forget who else. It looked really good.
Yeah, it should be a really great program.
So it's a shame that David Brose is going to be in person Saturday night at some little
it's the Sellersville Theater.
the Sellersville Theater, but it's of course the same night as Rabbi Mero's tribute. Not that I would have gone in person, but I'm sure more people would have gone. He's great.
Well, so they can get to see him Sunday.
Right.
Correct.
All right, I see Rob, you have your hand up?
Yes, Cantor, I believe the services start at 9:30 tomorrow instead of 10.
Yes. Yes, so tomorrow's service at 9:30 a.m. and tomorrow on Saturday.
Thank you.
Instead of 10 a.m. So that's just, thank you, Rob. Good point.
Yeah, and I think the preschool's starting first and then Beth Porter. So
yeah,
you don't want to miss either one.
Yeah, it should be a really, really nice Shabbat. All right, so we're going to turn to page 54 and we'll conclude our services with Adon Olam. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yesir nivra li'et nasa b'kef sochol az hamelech shemo nikra yacharei kichlot hakol לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הורה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא להתנסה וחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא להתנסה וחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה והוא היה והוא הווה Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. I'd like to wish you all a great evening.
Can you unmute us? No, we're not.
Shabbat shalom, Cantor.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat